Hey, wrestling fans, Brian Crazy here.
JC Styles.
We are Effin' True Wrestling, and we are back at you. Apologize that we haven't got to get together in a little while. It's been a busy few weeks here. But, first things first, we are going to produce an Over the Limit predictions video for you guys this evening. But, right now, TNA Impact, or, I guess, newly renamed Impact Wrestling. Where wrestling matters, which I gotta give them credit. Wrestling does matter, and I'm glad they're highlighting that.
I don't mind that they want to put, wrestling matters as their tagline, but it's been TNA Wrestling or TNA Impact for so long. If you're gonna change it, then make it Total Nonstop Action Impact or Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. Don't Impact Wrestling sounds retarded.
Well, the company's still TNA. It's just that the show they produce is Impact Wrestling. And I think what they're trying to do here is you have a company such as WWE, which changes their name just similar to like America Online. They became, from America Online, they became AOL. Everybody still knew what AOL stood for. Just like WWE's rebranded itself as WWE Inc., which, quote-unquote, doesn't stand for anything. TNA is trying to show that we are a wrestling show. Wrestling, as their tagline says, wrestling does matter here, and that's what we're going to highlight. But the first thing we see is 10 minutes of Immortal on the show. Yet again.
Wasn't TNA's motto before it went from TNA Wrestling Crossline? It was TNA Wrestling We Are Wrestling, or is TNA We Are Wrestling? So I mean, basically all they're doing is they're really going back to what brought them to the dance. But the thing is, though, to change your whole entire show to a whole entire different product, then to boot, they kind of bite on the WWE SmackDown colors, the blue and black.
Well, I mean, traditionally blue has been used in wrestling for years, and actually, if anything, the blue would have been more of a Bischoff thing because Thunder debuted before SmackDown did, and Thunder was blue. SmackDown kind of bid on Thunder if you really historically think back, and Thunder was
which show was more successful?
Off the bat, before SmackDown was produced, Thunder did very good ratings. And when Thunder actually had main event talent, by the end of Thunder's run, it was all the B-list. It was as SmackDown was before they did the brand extension.
Let's just put it this way. As soon as SmackDown started up, there was no more Thunder. It was just WWE Raw, SmackDown, and then obviously,
Well, maybe for you, but you got to think, I've always been a Southern wrestling fan. I've always liked both products, but, dude, most nights if I was watching Nitro or watching Raw, I flip back and forth, to be honest, and some nights, Nitro was better. Nitro was better for 2 years in a row, man, and that the ratings proved it, and the fans proved it.
Well, I don't know, I mean, to be honest, I've gone back and I've watched a lot of the old school Nitros. During the whole Monday Night Wars thing, if there was no really NWO, there really wasn't a Monday Night War, because if it wasn't for Hogan the NWO takeover, WWE would have whooped their asses for 2 years straight.
Well, not necessarily, because you got to think, NWO started, in '96, and in '96, what was WWE still bringing to the table? They had the Connecticut Blue Blood, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and characters such as that. I mean, it wasn't until WCW stepped up the bar and WWF started losing in the ratings that the Attitude Era even get launched. And that's when you started seeing the controversial angles like the Nation of Domination. You started seeing Degeneration X. You saw all the different factions that, made up kind of the racial wars of the 90s into the factional wars of the late 90s. But we are here for TNA Impact.
But, but let me get this out, though. It's just because I remember going to school, and it wasn't the NWO being talked about. It was Degeneration X. When we went to school, it was kids wearing Degeneration X memorabilia. It wasn't NWO.
Oh, dude, it's funny. Well, a lot of WWE fanboys like to go more towards WWE. It's okay.
Not me. I mean, I did watch WCW, and I did like a lot of the talent, like Eddie and Sting and Flair and the NWO and stuff like that. But the thing is, though, we didn't see 45 minutes of Degeneration X on Monday Night Raw. We saw maybe 10 minutes there and then 10 minutes later at the end of the show.
And that time period, Nitro was also
NWO
3 hours too, which you have to remember. Nitro was a 3-hour show. So if you saw 45 minutes of the NWO...
3 hours? You mean 2 hours?
3 hours. Nitro was 3 hours. It was from 8 to 11 for many years up until 2000.
I never remember
WCW. Nitro was 3 hours. Our fans confirmed that Nitro was 3 hours. And then they cut back to 2. God, when they were here in Hartford in '98, it was a 3-hour show.
I never recall them being 3 hours. I only remember 2 hours. I remember they would go on an hour before Raw, and they would end at 10 o'clock.
That was that was from 2000 to 2001. But the earlier years, like 98, 95, 96, 97, 98, we were at 3 hours.
Anyway, but back to what I was saying though, that to be honest, like I said, I watched WCW. I'm not gonna lie, but the thing is though, the whole thing with TNA and the Thunder and then SmackDown and everything, you never really, out in school, you never really heard about what was going on in WCW. It was more about the WWE.
Maybe with the kids that you were hanging with the kids I was hanging with, we were talking about Goldberg. We were talking about
Goldberg. Yeah, but Goldberg was a different thing because Goldberg was something that people wanted to see.
Dude.
But like,
I
remember there was no NWO shirts in school. There was not one kid walking around with NWO shirts.
There was plenty of NWO shirts in school. You just weren't noticing them. But God, man, I remember talking about Hogan. I remember talking about Nash. I remember talking about DDP. I remember talking about Goldberg. I remember talking about Rey Mysterio before Rey Mysterio was even cool. I mean, I remember talking about the Filthy Animals. I remember talking about 3 Count. I mean, I remember talking about, oh God, just the memories that WCW brings back. And you got to think, WCW was the brainchild of Bischoff. And yes, a lot of people disagree with what Bischoff and Hogan, the creative influence they've had on TNA in the last year. A lot of that's been backed off, if you notice. They've been focusing a lot more on the originals than a lot of the brought-in talent. You do have to admit. But
it's just the thing about WCW, and then we'll get into the TNA, is just that, to be honest, it was like, yes, it was wrestling, as Ted Turner would call it, but to me, comparing the two, it was almost the same thing. I mean, the only thing that was different was that ECW brought in guys like Rey Mysterio, brought in the luchadors, the Mexican wrestlers, and then they went to WCW, and for a long time, that was what made WCW to me so much better than the WWE. But then when WWE started to do the light heavyweight division, then they had guys like Brian Christopher, Taka Michinoku, and then they were bringing wrestlers over from Japan and Mexico and all that stuff. Then WWE started to really pick up the momentum.
Well,
but the thing was,
under the light heavyweight division, I really feel like WWE dropped the ball. I don't feel like they really picked up a good lightweight division until they resurrected the cruiserweight title on SmackDown. I mean, and it was a shame too, because like JC said, WCW...
Well, because at that time it was a different product, because everyone wasn't paying to see the lightweight division. Everyone was paying to see the big names like Austin, Rock, Triple H, Shawn Michaels.
Well, that's what makes different fans like different things. When I watched WCW, that's what made the show very enjoyable for me, was the mid-card. Watching Rey Mysterio, watching Conan, watching Chris Jericho, watching Dean Malenko, watching, all these incredible mid-card athletes that really made the show. Yeah, the NWO segments were entertaining. Yeah, DDP was great. Yeah, Goldberg was great. In his own way, 7-minute matches, the same 4 moves, but hey, guy was powerhouse.
To be honest, the NWO was mainly the main reason why I actually went back and started seeking out a lot of the old Nitros, because, I wasn't so much a Hogan fan, more as if I was a Hall and Nash fan, and that was one of the main reasons why I started watching WCW for a while, along with the cruiserweights, because I was like, alright, so WWE has the fake Diesel and Razor, but you have the real guys who portrayed them over in WWE and WCW. Let me watch them. And then, some of the content was good, but the thing was, it wasn't something where I was going to go and spend $30 on the pay-per-view and then a couple of weeks later spend another $30 to watch the WWE pay-per-views. At that time when you couldn't access any of that information on the websites, on sites.
Exactly. Well, I mean, there was a small internet fan-based community back then. But, I mean, on several occasions, I chose to get WCW events over WWE events. I got New Blood Rising. I got Starrcade '98. I mean, I don't know. To me personally, I love WWE.
Well, Starrcade '98 was a very good pay-per-view, but see, though, to me,
well, let me just finish my thought, please. To me, at that time when those two companies still existed, I'm talking 97, 98. By 99, 2000, the tide had turned so much.
Let's just say from the window of late '96 to late '98.
Let me finish my thought. We say 96 to 98. WCW provided a certain realism. These storylines could almost really be happening in real life. WWE, WWF at the time was still very character-based. Then you saw the evolution of characters. You see Austin, you see Rock, you see D-Generation X, you see all these, rebels without a cause, and then the WCW product started to decline due to, various factors, contract problems, this, that, and the other. But I don't know.
Backstage politics of them wanting to keep Hall and Hogan, Nash and Hogan writing a lot of the skits for the NWO.
Well, exactly. Well, they had creative control clauses written into their contracts. But, both companies offer different things for the different fan. I enjoyed both, but I enjoyed them for different things, just like I said. I enjoyed one for the realism. I enjoyed one for the more cartoony, entertainment-based style. And that's what WWE has always been based on. Since the 80s, it's always been a more cartoony, entertainment-based style. And TNA has given us a little more realism like the WCW days of past.
Yeah, but then again, also with the thing, also with some of the current storylines in TNA, it's not really believable. The whole Tommy Dreamer storyline, come on. No way, shape, or form Tommy Dreamer has said it in books, in interviews, on DVDs, that he does the wrestling for the fans. Then for him to come out on TV and to, it's not real. It seems cheesy because the fact is that you have a guy pretending to go back on his word on TV. It's just like it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, the thing about it is, if you followed the Dreamer storyline since the collapse of EV 2.0, is that you see that Dreamer's very disenchanted with his position within TNA wrestling. Yes. He wants something different, he wants more, and he feels like maybe Immortal is going to be his ticket to more. And that's what makes the storyline, plausible at best. But Impact, May 19th, 2011, the renamed Impact Wrestling. We see Immortal come out. Then the X Division comes out. We see Red, the Bucks, and Kendrick. Basically, Bischoff says he is going to put an end to the X Division.
What's left of the X Division? Okay, that's one thing. That's one thing. Okay, that I'm really aggravated about. I'm aggravated with TNA. I want to just go on a minute rant right here.
I think the storyline is to bring the X Division back to the forefront.
But the thing is, though, the thing is, one, what X Division is there really left? You got the Bucks, you got Brian Kendrick, you got Amazing Red, you have Suicide, and you have Eric Young.
Sangriento?
Whatever, Amazing Red. But the thing is, it pisses me off because the fact is that what made TNA stand out from different was even though it was a four-sided ring before they went to the six sides, it went the four-sided ring, then the six sides, which they coined the phrase, the six-sided ring gives the high flyers more options of offensive maneuvers. Then they go back to a square ring. That pissed me off. Second thing that pisses me off is that what really is left of the X Division? You have maybe 5 to 6 names that's really left in the X Division, and then whatever is probably not on Impact you see over on Explosion. From my point of view, I don't watch Explosion. I watch Impact. That's it.
Well, I watch TNA today and I watch Explosion. I picked them up recently, and I find them both very good shows. And I do have to say, yeah, we don't have a lot of X Division stars, but I think the storyline is kind of the way to bring them back into the forefront. Unfortunately, the situation happened, and
this is the whole story. This is the whole enchilada.
And wrestling's been fought in a four-sided ring. I do have to say, wrestling's been fought in a four-sided ring for well over 100 years.
Yes, Yes, that's true. But the thing is, the thing that made TNA so different compared to any other wrestling promotion out there was the six-sided ring. The minute they went to four-sided ring, everyone in the friggin' arena wanted, we want 6 sides. I still want 6 sides. To me, TNA isn't TNA anymore. It's the 2011 version of WCW. That's exactly what it is. And I'm sorry to give it that label, but it is. I mean, yes, WCW was very interesting in the 90s, and the legacy still lives on with a lot of like the independent wrestlers who were wrestled over in WCW that didn't go to TNA that are wrestling, you know, and throughout the various versions of the NWA territories, what's left of them. But the thing is, it's 1999 WCW all over again, but with the current TNA roster. I tune in to see Styles, Fortune, Beer Money, the X Division, tag team wrestling. You know, granted, even some of the knockouts. I do not tune in to see a half an hour talk with Immortal.
Well, I do have to agree that some of the promo segments have been running a little long lately. But
they need to give
some of the reasons that they've done these things is you have to look past the limited scope of a lot of the fans and the way that they're seeing things. You got to look at it from the bigger point of view. Yes, TNA was very successful in the early days with the X Division stars, but they were very successful in a very small niche. They only made so many sales, and to bring TNA to the next level, to bring it to more of a competition level, to bring it to the second largest wrestling promotion in the United States, they need to do certain things. And doing certain things is, A, they got to kind of have a similar look as the other wrestling promotions. That's where I can see where they brought back in the four-sided ring. B, to probably even get Hulk Hogan in the door, that was probably one of the caveats of his agreement. C, which Hulk Hogan, a lot of purist wrestling fans such as myself, I like Hogan to an extent. I would like to see him a little more active. I'd like to see, like as he says it, less of the gaga. But the thing about it is, to put Hogan there means people are going to come and see Hogan. And to be able to sell a ticket based on that is a draw. That is the key. They're in business. They're trying to make money.
But regardless, okay,
I love AJ Styles, but who's going to make more money, AJ Styles or Hulk Hogan?
Fuck Hulk Hogan. This is the thing that pisses me off. 2 years ago, you wouldn't even think about hearing the name Hulk Hogan in TNA, and that's what pisses me off.
When they're only selling 5,000 pay-per-views.
Who gives a shit? To be honest, who gives a shit? When they're only selling $5,000 in pay-per-views,
they give a shit.
They're struggling, but they're struggling. This is the thing.
They give a shit because they're trying to... Guys, it's a business thing. They're trying to bring in more talent, better talent. They're trying to bring the show on the road. They're trying to get out of the impact zone, and to do this, they need to expand. They need to look outside this little freaking box.
But they don't need guys like Bischoff and Hogan. They could do it on their own. Dude, you mean to tell me Jarrett founded TNA and created TNA from a tiny little pebble with the help of the Carters and Panda Energy, which is the Carter Dixie's father's company.
Well, TNA actually was created with the assistance of the Health South Corporation, and then after they had to back out, the Carters bought 71% interest in TNA, but that's okay.
But what I'm trying to say is, though, if it wasn't for Hogan and how he saw the company he was working for, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and seeing how a wrestling company was run when he was wrestling for his father's promotion, if it wasn't for that, and if it wasn't for the Jarretts and the Carters and any other company who had a hand in helping TNA, it wouldn't be in existence today. TNA does not need Hogan and does not need Bischoff. You mean to tell me that Jeff Jarrett doesn't have enough brain smarts of what's good and what's going to draw and make money, and then they bring Hulk Hogan? They don't need Hulk Hogan.
Jeff Jarrett is a phenomenal athlete. Don't get me wrong, phenomenal athlete.
He did fine over the first 5 years.
I have higher regard for Jeff Jarrett than a lot of people do. But the fact at the end of the day is that Eric Bischoff took a small Southern-based wrestling company, turned it national, got them contracts with TV companies, got them in huge arenas, all things that TNA is aspiring to do.
Well,
They want to get out of the impact zone.
But Bischoff did not get into get TNA into big arenas. TNA was going to big arenas for their big pay-per-views like Bound for Glory, Slammiversary.
Yeah. Now they're actually filming Impact at big arenas.
Yes, but the thing is, though,
they're going on the road.
But the thing is, though, the thing about TNA is that you don't need Bischoff and you don't need Hogan. TNA can exist without Hogan and without Bischoff, because right now, to be honest, all it is with the whole Immortal gimmick is their version of the NWO. TNA's version of NWO.
Well, that's what they're doing on screen, and you're going to see that evolve in the weeks to come.
I don't want to see that. I want to see wrestling. I don't want to see a half an hour segment with Immortal in the X Division.
Well, that's part of their rebranding. That you're going to see more wrestling, and that's part of. You got to think about this from the bigger scope. You got to think about.
I'm thinking about it the bigger scope, but the thing is, Brian. The thing is, though, bro, is that you want to be known as a wrestling company. Get rid of the promos. Plain and simple. Get rid of the in-ring segments and wrestle.
Well, the thing about it is that people tune in for the entertainment aspect. You have to appeal to all demographics. You can't just say what the one person wants, because they appeal to what you want, and then they piss off the other 10,000 people watching the show tonight.
If the 10,000 other people that watch the show tonight want to see entertainment, go to the WWE.
Well, wrestling is, come on, wrestling since the 80s has always been entertainment-based. But
yeah, but it was the entertainment base of the product was always the in-ring action, not the friggin' half an hour and 25. You screwed me out of the title. I want my title shot. I never lost my title. I was stripped of it because of an injury. That's bullshit. Dude, I'm tired of hearing RVD complain about it. I'm tired of seeing Anderson. I want my title shot.
I'm not trying to defend TNA's booking decisions in the last 6 months. I'm just saying, as a company that's trying to bring themselves to a higher level, an executive like Bischoff and a well-known face like Hogan is going to bring them. It's going to bring them to a level that they have not experienced yet, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to expand. They're trying to become the second largest company, and that's what they're trying to do. But we are trying to get 2 videos out on this camera tonight, so we should probably just run through Impact Wrestling real quick. For the first match, we see Tara Tessmacher and Mickie James defeat Sarita, Rosita, and Madison Rayne. And then we go into, speaking of the X Division, I could not frickin' believe this. I think I texted you during this match. Abyss defeats Kazarian to become the new X Division champion. Well, okay, Samoa Joe was a big guy.
He was 2007 all over again with the Dudley Boys holding the X Division title hostage. And that's basically what this is. They're redoing what they did years ago in TNA. There's no X Division. And if this is a way to bring the X Division back, I'm sorry, but it's a dumb idea, because it's the same thing with the. I'll go with, for instance, it's the same thing with the WWE. WWE has such a big mid card that you don't get to see the talent because of the stupid storylines with the big main eventers. And this is exactly what's happening. Is that in TNA you got so much involvement with Immortal, and then the TV time between Sting and Anderson in the RVD main WWE the TNA World Title picture, is you need less for instance, you would probably have back in, I want to say, okay, let's say 2005, you would have probably, I want to say, about 20 minutes of a promo on Impact, and then you would see another 15 minutes the following week to help build the promo, help build the match, then a fantastic payoff. Now you have a 30-minute promo and then a horrible payoff match at the pay-per-view. I remember TNA when you would get a good 5 to 10 minute or 5-minute promo, and then another one, and then bam, you got pay-per-view time to talk is over, and then you have a fantastic match. TNA isn't producing fantastic promos or matches anymore.
I mean, they've had a few good matches in the last few months, but I mean, last pay-per-view I saw it was mediocre at best.
The last couple of ones were mediocre at best. Lockdown, I fell asleep no disrespect to Kurt and no disrespect to Jared, because I saw in videos of that match on YouTube. That match was fantastic. It was phenomenal. But the fact is that the rest of the card was mediocre except for that match. And then you had Lethal Lockdown with Fortune and what was it? Fortune EV2 this year?
No, Fortune and Immortal.
Yeah, Fortune and Immortal, and it was Team Hogan versus Team Flair again. It was Team Hogan and Team Flair.
Well, you gotta think that.
Come on.
Once you launch a wrestling storyline, depending on how long the talent stays on and depending on your cycle, typically you're going 6 months to a year to keep the audience familiar in the product. 2010
was a good year for TNA. Well, I'm not gonna say it was a good year. Bound for Glory 2010 was a fantastic pay-per-view, but after Bound for Glory, we had 3 shitty pay-per-views. Then we had a fantastic Genesis when we saw Anderson finally win the title. And then, you see since Genesis, what has really? Then they got their anniversary pay-per-view coming up, and I'm pretty sure.
I think their plans were really thrown off with the Jeff Hardy situation. I would like to see Hardy back. Actually, at first I was like, man.
If they're gonna bring Hardy back, he's got to start at the bottom of the ring. He can't come back and automatically want a title shot.
Well, Hardy is a top dog, so I could see him being interjected.
But he's got to earn his shot. He can't just come and say, "I want my title shot," and be, okay, here's your title shot. You can't. No.
Of course. He has to earn it, just like anyone else would have to. But we're gonna run through the rest of this card. Then we're gonna do our over the limit predictions for you guys. Then we see Joe defeat the Amazing Red with a huge muscle buster. My God, the elevation he got off of this. He goes to attack Amazing Red post-match. We see Crimson come out and make the save.
And then what? I don't know.
I think Crimson's a pretty good athlete.
To be honest,
what's wrong with Crimson?
To be honest, he doesn't get me at the edge of my seat. Guys like Joe Styles, the TNA originals is what gets me out of the chair.
I love the TNA originals, but I mean,
dude, you remember when
to base a whole company off a couple guys that are left over from a past era is kind of difficult to do. You got to bring in fresh talent. It's an evolving business.
We all know what's going to happen. I see what's happening. This is what's happening. Joe was undefeated. Kurt Angle, top dog in his prime, came in, defeated Samoa Joe, ended his undefeated streak. Crimson's on a 6-month winning streak. They're going to put him against Joe. Joe's going to end it.
Yeah, well, I don't doubt that at all. And then the big thing is either Angle or Jarrett's going to be the #1 contender for the title coming at Slammiversary.
And here's the big picture. TNA's all about ending streaks. What company isn't about ending streaks? WrestleMania, perhaps? Certain undefeated streak at WrestleMania?
Which I think is
bullshit.
No, it's not bullshit. Because The Undertaker's given more to that company than a lot of other superstars have. You got to understand the business, not just from the fans' point of view.
I like giving the fans' point of view because I like my voice to be heard, and I think the streak needs to be end, and it's just a plain and simple fact. Regardless of what money and what wrestlers do, or what wrestler. Look how much money Bret Hart brought to the WWE in the 90s, and look what Vince fucking did to him.
Well, no. The situation that arose was very simple. Vince McMahon signed a long 20-year contract with Bret Hart. They fell into financial problems. He can no longer promise him that money. He says, hey, if you can take an offer elsewhere, go for it. I want to make sure you and your family are okay. Then Bret Hart refuses to drop the title in Canada.
Because I can understand him not wanting to drop the title in front of his home crowd.
I can understand, but Vince McMahon got scared. He was afraid he was going to bring the title, just like Alundra Blaze brought the title, Medusa to Nitro, and threw it in a trash can, even though Bret Hart had more integrity than that. But still, Vince McMahon was scared, took the belt. It's what happened. It's in the past.
Bret was all about leaving the business, leaving WWE on a good note until Vince screwed him.
Yeah, Vince was worried. It was a very, very, very hectic period. Vince almost went under several times in the late 90s. Then we move into Tommy Dreamer cuts a promo. We see AJ come out,
which lasted about another 20
minutes. AJ's in neck brace. We see Dreamer attack. Daniels makes the save, and then we see Bully Ray come out with a chain wrapped on his hand, takes out both guys. Then we go into an Angle Jarrett promo, basically hyping towards their match at Slammiversary 9.
This feud needs to end.
I think this is
It has been since I want to say late 2009.
And it's nice that got to get both of these guys back in the wrestling world, though, in a capacity. I mean, Jarrett we didn't see for quite some time.
But let's talk.
And now he's working matches every month.
Let's talk about the big news of the night. Well, not the big news of the night, but where I think that they're gonna go with this angle with Ric Flair and Rude. I think you said it to me last week that they're thinking about bringing AMW back.
Bringing back America's Most Wanted, Chris Harris and James Storm, and then making Rick Rude more of a main event player. And I see Rick Rude and Ric Flair, they bumped heads the last 2 weeks on Impact, and I see this coming to some sort of head, maybe Flair's return to the ring. Because remember that match that Flair had last fall on Impact? It was phenomenal. That would have been better than most of the matches that were on last Sunday's pay-per-view. Hands down. The 60-year-old Flair. Flair fought a really good match last fall.
Too. I think the last match that I actually saw that was actually interesting with Ric Flair was his match that he had with Jay Lethal.
That was pretty good too.
But the best Ric Flair hands down match as of recent is the one he had with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. Hands down. Even TNA can't touch anything compared to that match.
I don't know. Ric Flair's had some pretty good spots in TNA since he's been there. I don't know.
Go ahead and watch that match again and tell me that wasn't a fantastic match
compared
to what TNA has done with Ric Flair.
No, it was. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I don't know really where I was going to go with that. But I mean, we'll just cap off the rest of the night. We see Velvet come out. She pushes Karen down the ramp in a wheelchair. That was pretty good. Then we see Bischoff and Hardy. Yes, Bischoff and Hardy face the Bucks. They end up picking up the win. Then we see Velvet defeat using a small package Winter and Angelina Love in a handicap match. OBD comes out and attacks. Then the segment that JC was talking about, that Flair Rude promo, Immortal comes out and attacks Robert Roode. And then for the final segment of the night, we see Sting come out. And who does Sting meet? A familiar face from the past. Anderson looked just like Surfer gimmick Sting.
Well, it was not even the Surfer gimmick Sting. It was just how Sting was back in the 90s.
Yeah, it was like
that wasn't some attire that TNA threw together. That was actually out of Sting's private, personal tights and jacket collection.
You can see they were a little snug on Anderson, but
I think, to be honest, I think that they actually had to retailor those tights to fit Anderson, because Sting was really scrawny when he was into WCW in the early days.
He was pretty.
91, he was skinny.
He was skinny, but he had a pretty big.
He had a big upper body.
Yeah. But I mean, down to the face paint. Anderson's already got the blonde hair. He had it up at a little spike. With the face paint, the outfit, I mean, it looked like old school Sting. And now we're seeing Anderson playing the mind games against Sting. But I think me and JC pretty much got everything that's been aggravating us with wrestling lately.
With TNA.
Too many promos, not enough wrestling. I do understand what they're doing for some of the, it's business, and I understand that they're trying to create more draws, create more money, get their, name out there, and get the show more on the road. Get it outside the Impact
I think they
zone.
could have did something better than Impact Wrestling.
I think total non-stop action wrestling's Impact Wrestling is a little redundant, but I think they're driving the point home. Impact Wrestling is where wrestling matters. And for F and True Wrestling, where wrestling matters, it's been Brian Crazy.
Well, it's not where wrestling matters, it's just the voice that people want to hear.
Wrestling matters here as well. Okay?
Have a good night.
Hey, have a great one. For F and True Wrestling, Brian Crazy.
JC Styles.
Catch you later.
That's probably got to be like 40 minutes. It has to be.